Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Lewis, and I get this question all the time from friends, family, and colleagues. Should I buy Bitcoin? And I feel like they're asking me that question because they're just starting to see it pop up more and more. If you're on social media, you're hearing some friends talking about cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum. You start seeing it on the news like CNBC, or you do a Google search and Bitcoin pops up. If you have any type of ties to the stock market, if you're an investor, you hear things like GameStop going crazy, AMC, short squeezes, all these things, Robinhood traders. And every time a conversation like that comes up, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency finds its way into that discussion. And then as you go down that rabbit hole and you find out what Bitcoin is and you do a little bit of research, you then come across this huge number, $50,000. That's how much Bitcoin is currently trading at. Now, it has pulled back a little bit since then, but that's a huge psychological barrier. If you rewind to March of last year, Bitcoin was trading at around $3,000 at the depth of the huge market crash last year, March 2020. If you were lucky enough to buy Bitcoin then, you would have over a 10x return on your money. So even if you missed that and you are here today holding $0 in Bitcoin, you're asking yourself, is now a time for me to get involved with that? So I hope to cover a little bit of that in this video and help give you a couple of things to think about on whether or not Bitcoin is the right investment for you. So let's get into the video. All right, well, welcome to the channel, guys. This is my very first YouTube video, so please cut me some slack. But of course, I figured I would talk about Bitcoin because that's what everybody else is talking about. But the purpose of this channel is really much bigger than that. It's more about personal finance and just gaining control of your money and just feeling a little bit more comfortable about how you manage your finances and that you're hitting your goals, at least from a financial standpoint. There's a whole world outside of money, but if you're able to manage that, it's a huge check mark to just help you focus on the things that really matter most to you. So Bitcoin has really become center stage mainly because it's starting to garner a lot of mainstream adoption. So I've been around Bitcoin, I've known about it for a long time, and it's only been around for about 10 years, but it's not until recently that I've seen a lot of the institutional adoption and just the price surging to $50,000 that really made me a believer in Bitcoin. So I want to share with you a couple of things that I thought about and a couple of the things that I tell people who ask me about Bitcoin to help them understand it, if they want to buy it, if it's the right investment for them, and if they have the right risk profile to hold on to this asset, because Bitcoin is extremely volatile, but that volatility gives you massive, massive amounts of performance. So the first question typically is, what is Bitcoin? To answer it in the easiest way possible, it is nothing more than digital code. It's nothing more than that. It's basically software. It's not a thing you could pick up. You can't see it. It's literally code sitting inside of a computer. But that's not very different from what you're currently doing today. If you think about in-app purchases, I play a game called Golf Clash, which is just an iPhone app that allows me to play golf against other people in cyberspace. But there is a person sitting at the other end of that computer. But within the game, I could purchase coins or gems or diamonds or treasure chests to exchange to upgrade my clubs or get new golf balls or to earn rewards. I'm basically exchanging dollars for some type of a digital currency within a game. So Bitcoin works a lot like that, but in a real world application, that's pretty much how your money works. When you go to your bank's website and you plug in your username and password and you look up your account balance and it says $1,000, that's just digital code. There isn't $1,000 sitting in some bank vault just waiting for you to go get it. You can't go to the bank and get your $1,000 out. You could go to the bank and they can give you $1,000 and then they just update your bank account to have $0 and now you have physical currency. But that currency is not tied to anything ever since we removed the gold standard. So really, we're already living in a digital currency world. What makes Bitcoin different is that the supply of Bitcoin cannot be manipulated and it cannot be changed. And it's hyper secure, and it is also a trustless network. So the easiest way to describe that is that when you go to your bank, let's say you bank at Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they are the trusted authenticator of your balance. Chase says you have $1,000. When you go spend money online and you use your credit card, Chase validates that transaction with that retailer or Visa, whatever network you're using. But the trust needs to exist, and there needs to be some third party, let it be a bank or a credit card company and or the retailer. And then when they receive those funds, they agree that, yeah, I will take US dollars. Well, cryptocurrency gets rid of that third party authentication and makes everybody an authenticator. Now, that could be an entire video of how this works. You might hear things like blockchain and ledger, but the number one thing that you need to understand is that when you make transactions with Bitcoin, that transaction is not authorized by any central party. There is no Bitcoin headquarters. There is no Bitcoin CEO. Now, some people might argue Satoshi, and I always forget how to say the last name, but you've probably heard the name Satoshi, is the creator, the godfather of Bitcoin. Nobody knows who he is or she is, or if it's even a group of people, but whoever created Bitcoin is now gone in obscurity. He or she has not revealed himself, and now really Bitcoin has just turned into this massive, massive blockchain with thousands and thousands of miners, computers, and tens of millions of people who are on this network. And that's where Bitcoin really derives its value. It is a trust system. The only reason you bank at Chase or Bank of America is because you trust them, that when you put your money there, it's going to be there. But if you rewind 100 years, that system was deeply flawed. There were runs on the bank when people wanted to pull money out, but banks were too over-levered, or they loaned out too much money, or they couldn't meet their debt obligations, and that money was gone, poof, into thin air. And the same thing could happen with Bitcoin. We just forget that that's how our current financial system is currently set up. So, a long-winded way. So I had to stop myself there because I got a little bit long-winded, and again, I don't have time. I got 2 kids. I do not have time to sit down and memorize my script. So I have a piece of paper with my notes, and I'm just kind of jumping off the script. So hopefully you're still finding some value in this. And at the end of the day, I'm having fun sharing this information. I'm sure over time my videos will get a lot faster, but this is what we're going to deal with. So appreciate you sticking with me. So that's what Bitcoin is. It's a decentralized form of money. Now, some people call it an actual new monetary system, a store of value. It doesn't really matter what it is, because at the end of the day, words are just words. When I tell you the color blue is blue, we could all agree the sky is blue, the grass is green, but how do you describe to a blind person that's never seen the color blue what the color blue looks like? Does it really matter? What matters about Bitcoin is that a lot of people are adopting it. We're all collectively trying to figure out what it is that Bitcoin really does and why it's important. But one thing is a fact. Right now, if you have 1 Bitcoin, you could sell to somebody else for $47,000. And I think if there's anything you want to take away from this, it's that. 47 grand, 1 Bitcoin. Should you buy it? I would. And I did. So when people ask me, how much of it should I buy? Well, that's really up to you. But if you want a good answer that will apply to everybody, it is more than 0. Because understanding how money actually works, and one of the first steps that I tell people in getting a better handle on their finances is, how does money really flow? If you look at the overall economy, so all 350 million Americans, let's say, and that includes your kids, my kids, and brothers, sisters, cousins, we're all part of this system. Money tends to flow from people who value it least to the people that value it most. If you place a high value on money, not to say that money is the most important thing, but you value the utility of money, and you want to manage your finances well because it allows you to focus in on other things like giving back to your community, focusing on yourself, or sharing your gifts with others, having that checked off your list is an extremely empowering feeling. So people think about using money in a very unilateral way. If you want a new flat screen TV, you go to Best Buy, you pick out a TV, you give them $1,000 and you buy that television. People think about money in the way that they purchase things. But when you sell something, you're basically purchasing money. So when I sell my car to buy a new one and they want to give me 10 grand for my car, I'm basically selling a big piece of metal and rubber and electronics and a big gasoline engine, or electric if you want a Tesla, and I'm exchanging it for dollars. I'm saying, here, I'm going to give you one car for 10,000 USD. That's how they think about it. You're basically buying money with things instead of only buying things with money. So once you understand that and money becomes more bilateral and not unilateral, meaning not just going out but also coming in, you really start understanding how investing works. You're basically buying things with money. So if I take my money and I buy a car, you look at a chart of a car and it goes to the right and down. You buy a house with money and it goes to the right and up. These are the charts that we like. So you might think, okay, well, what if I don't buy anything with my money? Well, here's a chart of the US dollar's value. As you can see, it's a lot like a car. It's going to the right and down. Well, here's a chart of Bitcoin. As you can see here, it's going to the right and up. And as I just stated, we like charts that go up and to the right. So first things first, you are buying things with money, but then when you give up things for money, you are now buying that currency. What currency do you want to hold? Well, most people want to hold US dollars because it's not volatile, but it's slowly losing its value. And if things keep going down the path that they are going down, it's most likely going to keep going further to the right and further to the downside. So then that brings into the final question of, we already know what Bitcoin is. You already know you should buy some of it. Now, how much risk are you willing to take on? So you've probably heard the old adage, high risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. And that is very true in most cases. And it's especially true when it comes to Bitcoin. If you just want to hold dollars, so you take your money, you park it into a savings account, you're going to get 0.01% on your money, but it really, for the most part, won't go down. But in actuality, your dollar is going down. It's just going down so slowly, you don't realize it. $100 today does not buy you what $100 would buy you in 1975. And in 2035, $100 will not buy you what $100 buys you today. Putting money into just a savings account is low risk, but the rewards are also very low. If you now take your dollars and you exchange it for Bitcoin, you have a huge amount of potential to 2x, 3x, and potentially 4x or greater that amount of money. So if you put $100 into Bitcoin, in the next year, in most cases, it's probably going to be worth double that, $200. Now, if you took that same 100 and you put in your bank account, you're going to have $100.01. That's not a good return. If you have $200, that's much better. You take your Bitcoin, sell it, convert it back to dollars, now you can go spend money out in the economy and be a productive person. So when I talk about risk, people typically think about risk to the downside. They always say, well, if I buy Bitcoin, what if the price goes down? Well, ask yourself this question. What if the price goes up? Again, rewind back to March of last year when the price was at $3,000. People would think you were crazy to say Bitcoin was going to be 10 grand. And then it hit 10 grand. When it was at 10,000, you're like, no way is this going to get to $15,000. And then it hit $15,000. And then at 15, we're like, listen, all-time high, 19 grand, never going to get there. If it does, massive rejection, and it's just going to tank again. Well, it hit 19, went to 20, 24, 25, 26, and it just kept going. It peaked out at around $42,000. So once it broke that all-time high of 19 grand, it jumped all the way up to 42 grand. And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so smart. Bitcoin's the best investment ever. And then it tanked right back down to $29,000, roughly a 30% decrease. Now, if you look at an American dollar, US dollar, your $1 is not going to go down to 70 cents next week. It is not going to do that. But over a decade or more, oh yeah, probably 70 cents on the dollar makes a whole lot of sense if you fast forward 10 or 20 years from now. But at the end of the day, even when Bitcoin tanks 30%, it's still worth $29,000. And as of today, it's recovered all of those losses, and now it's sitting at around $48,000. Now, if we have another 30% correction, people are like, oh my gosh, I cannot handle the madness. Well, 30% from 50,000 is roughly 35 grand. So if you bought one Bitcoin for $3,000 1 year ago, and it's now worth 50 grand, and you lose 30% of its value, it's still worth $35,000, which is at least or more than 10 times your initial investment. So is now a good time? Probably, because when I was 3,000, people thought you were nuts. And then at 20,000, and then at 30, and then now 40, and now at 50, are you nuts? Well, maybe if I go in the future and this video, I come back and watch it, and it's at $100,000, 50 grand is gonna look pretty cheap. The only thing you're gonna be asking yourself is, I really wish I bought more. So hopefully that video you guys found helpful. It was a little bit of a rant because I think that Bitcoin is a trade a lot of people just aren't putting enough time to think about. It has massive potential to earn you a ton of money, huge gains, but at the same time, you could get absolutely wrecked if you don't do it the right way. So my goal here is to talk a little bit more about not only Bitcoin, but other types of investments, investing in the overall stock market, but again, gaining a little bit more control over your personal finances. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Look forward to more videos to come, and I will see you next time. I never know how to end these things. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point.